The JBL Xtreme 2 versus the JBL Charge 3. Are you mad? This JBL Xtreme 2 is 3 times the size by weight, 800 grams, nearly 2.4 kilos. A 40 watt speaker, a 20 watt speaker, 7.2 volt battery, 3.7 volts, 10,000 milliamp hours, 6,000 milliamp hours. How can you possibly compare them? Well, the point is, what nobody expected was, on battery, this portable speaker on battery is 2 times 10 watts. It's 20 watts. It's the same maximum power on battery as the JBL Charge 3. It kind of seems extraordinary. It's 40 watts in the headlines, but that's 40 watts on AC power. So on battery, it sounds like the power output is the same as a JBL Charge 3. You can get 2 JBL Charge 3s at retail price cheaper than a single Xtreme 2. So suddenly you're thinking, I could say the same about the Flip 4, but I think the sound is nearer a Charge 3 than a Flip 4. So I'm comparing the Charge 3 because actually that's what people have been mentioning in my comments and asking me, and nobody's mentioned the Flip 4, but a lot of people are comparing it to the Charge 3 and saying, well, on battery, is it just the Charge 3? The short answer is no. It actually, although 20 watts, and by the way, a lot of people are debating, is that really 20 watts or 30 watts? Because the Xtreme 1 was 30 watts on battery power. And just to show you, on sheer battery power, the Xtreme 2 is quieter than the Xtreme 1, which does suggest that it really is 20 watts versus 30 watts. So this is a quick clip on absolute maximum, and the volumes are relative. They haven't been adjusted, so you hear the difference between the Xtreme 1 and the Xtreme 2. So no doubt about it, on battery, the Xtreme 1 is louder. On AC power, they are both 40 watts. But on battery, which is what the whole point is at the end of the day, it's a portable speaker. Even when you consider, it's bigger than the Xtreme 1. And yet, on battery, the way you'd really want to use it, there's less output. It seems weird. However, what you do get is a bigger bass, a bigger sound. But I want to just make a quick video, really answering questions, well, in my own mind anyway. Xtreme 2 versus a Charge 3 or 2 Charge 3s, because 2 Charge 3s you can buy at retail cheaper than the Xtreme 2. So what should you do if it's just about going portable and you're not bothered about using it on AC power when you're going to get double the power out of the Xtreme 2? So these are my clips of a single Charge 3 and a pair of Charge 3s against the Xtreme 2 on battery power only at absolute maximum volumes.
Tell your friends it was nice to meet them, but I hope I never see them again. I know it breaks your heart, moving to a city in a broke down car. And 4 years, no cars, now you're looking pretty in a hotel bar. And I can't stop. Hey, tell your friends it was nice to meet them, but I hope I never see them again. I know it breaks your heart, moving to a city in a broke down car. And 4 years, no cars, now you're looking pretty in a hotel bar. And I can't stop. Hey, tell your friends it was nice to meet them, but I hope I never see them again. I know it breaks your heart, moving to a city in a broke down car. And 4 years, no cars, now you're looking pretty in a hotel bar. And I can't stop.
So just a quick look at exactly what's going on. 2 Charge 3s, on average louder than the Xtreme 2. However, looking closer, although the peaks are the same, 22 decibels, the Xtreme 2 does go lower down to the 60 Hertz, whereas on the 2 Charge 3s, the peak is around 80 Hertz. However, the big difference is a lot more going on in the mid-range and upper mid-range on 2 Charge 3s compared to the leaner sound of the Xtreme 2, which is why 2 Charge 3s overall, on average, sound louder. However, because you are hearing the bass, you may not hear a louder sound because it's the bigger bass on the Xtreme 2. It's bass heavy, it's the leaner sound, and then at the high end, it picks up again in comparison to the 2 Charge 3s. So some people may find that a more exciting sound. Anyway, at maximum, if you're going to listen at maximum. Strictly speaking, 2 Charge 3s go louder, but one Xtreme 2 does go deeper in the bass and has more going on at the high end. Now, as far as one Xtreme compared to 1 Charge 3, again, 1 Charge 3 has that peak at around the 80 Hertz, but look, it's 28 decibels. It's clear 6 decibels quieter. So 1 Charge 3, although on paper, on battery, they are both 20 watts, the Xtreme and the Charge 3. One Xtreme 2 is not only louder, but it's a bigger sound because that bass is going down to 60 Hertz, the peak. So it's a deeper bass, and overall, even on average, it is louder than 1 Charge 3. So it's a bigger sound. So just to say again, this is a comparison on battery, because on battery, the Xtreme 2 is 20 watts, the Charge 3, 20 watts. However, it's a more powerful battery on the Xtreme 2. So hopefully it came over in the clips exactly what the differences are. When you actually analyse the sound, the average sound, the actual power you're getting from 2 Charge 3s is greater than a single Xtreme 2. But I have to say, the reality is, it's still a bigger sound because the Xtreme 2 does have a deeper, bigger, rounder bass. And that's what comes over in the listening. Not that one is louder than the other, but one is a bigger sound. So I would say, to my mind, I would still prefer the Xtreme 2. However, when it comes to value and the fact you can separate these out into stereo, if it's really about one Xtreme 2 or 2 Charge 3s, it's a really hard call, to be honest. because the benefit of being able to really separate these quite a bit and using them in stereo, and the fact that they are smaller and hand holdable because you can split them up into one hand each, whereas you can't split that up as such. So I would say it's a hard call. Personally, it depends on how you're going to use it. Outdoors, I think it's a no-brainer. I guess it's got to be the Xtreme 2. If it's simply a choice, I'm not saying there isn't better options, there probably are. But outdoors, even the Xtreme 1 obviously is going louder on battery. But if it's a choice between those two, it's hard. Indoors, and to me this is where the Xtreme 2 excels. Indoors rather than outdoors, because it's not overpowering or boomy, but you do get the big bass indoors. But I'm going to do that in another video when I do my overview of how it's been to live with. And I have to say I'm getting to like it more as I use it. On day one, I wasn't that impressed. When it comes to the Charge 3s, the battle, it's a real conundrum. One Xtreme 2 or two Charge 3s, only you really can answer that. You get the benefit of well-separated stereo with Charge 3, but you get a bigger sound. Coming from the Xtreme 2, you can't get away from that bass. So you're not going to get out the Charge 3s. Now, if you're not listening at maximum volume, what happens then? So the comparison now is at just over 50% volume for each of them. I've then normalised them so they are really the same volume. So you're just hearing the differences in the actual sound signature rather than anything else.
I'm ballin', I came from nothing to something like it's nothing. Yeah, you know I done it, that is no discussion, bitch. I'm ballin'. I made a promise to my mama, I'ma turn these zeros into tens and commas. Bitch, I'm ballin', closing $1 million deals, catch me swerving, burning $100 bills. How I feel when you ballin', going places they never go. It ain't all about the money, but I stack it 'cause you never know. I'ma live like I'm ballin'. I came from nothing to something like it's nothing. Yeah, you know I done it, that is no discussion, bitch. I'm ballin'. I made a promise to my mama, I'ma turn these zeros into tens and commas. Bitch, I'm ballin', closing $1 million deals, catch me swerving, burning $100 bills. How I feel when you ballin', going places they never go. It ain't all about the money, but I stack it 'cause you never know. I'ma live like I'm ballin'. I came from nothing to something like it's nothing. Yeah, you know I done it, that is no discussion, bitch. I'm ballin'. I made a promise to my mama, I'ma turn these zeros into tens and commas. Bitch, I'm ballin', closing $1 million deals, catch me swerving, burning $100 bills. How I feel when you ballin', going places they never go. It ain't all about the money, but I stack it 'cause you never know. I'ma live like
I'll be a fool tonight. 시간이 멈춘 듯해. 너와 내가 있던 곳에 눈을 감고 있으면 이미 나는 너와 함께
So again, quickly, just to see what is going on, the Xtreme 2 has the noticeably bigger bass and deeper bass. There's 2 Charge 3s peaking at around the 75 Hertz. The Xtreme 2 peaking down to, well, below 60 Hertz. The mids is where the Charge 3 comes into its own, compared to the leaner sound of the Xtreme 2, where to me it's noticeably missing on the Xtreme 2. However, Xtreme 2 comes into its own at the high ends, around the 2000 to 5000 Hertz, where it's consistent. On the Charge 3, it's dropping away, and one Charge 3 is dropping away. Again, on the one Charge 3, you can see it's the same peak as the 2 Charge 3s, but 2 Charge 3s are a little brighter. It does seem when you use the connect button, it makes the Charge 3s much brighter, gives it a little more sizzle. That's why you see that with the 2 Charge 3s, but not one Charge 3. However, overall, the Xtreme 2 is noticeably bass heavy. It's bigger in the bass, it's deeper in the bass. You do miss the mids that you get on the Charge 3, but you get the strong high end, which gives you a very forward vocal, especially on female vocals. So the takeaway is, one Charge 3, to my mind, in my opinion, cannot compete with the Xtreme 2. Not as a single Charge 3, although they are both apparently 20 watts on battery. If you just have one Charge 3 and you have it against the Xtreme 2, you're getting a bigger and louder sound still from the Xtreme 2. Not by a huge margin, but it appears to be a bigger margin because it's a bigger sound. You know, you have got bigger drivers, you have got bigger passive radiators. It does go deeper, you know, and it's a satisfying bass, whereas the Xtreme 1, you know, was a boomy upper bass boost. It's not so obvious on this. I'm not saying it's a flat frequency response, not that that matters to me. However, it is a satisfying bass. It is a nice bass. It doesn't come over as obviously boosted. And the thing is, it's nice and consistent throughout the volume range. So you can play these at moderate volumes. It's not a speaker that you have to, it's not a now boombox that it's all about shaking the walls. So if it's a choice, now you've got to remember at the end of the day, again, it's about the price. Less than half the price a Charge 3 than the Xtreme 2, which kind of is crazy. You know, maybe these will come down in price very, very soon. However, as things stand, I still say for sheer enjoyment, and what I mean by that is if I'm listening to my Charge 3, you know, I quite like it. It's nice. However, if I immediately switch to the Xtreme 2, although there is less body, it's a leaner sound, which I don't normally like. This seems to be a bit more enjoyment. So I feel more like singing along, the sing-along test, which is always my test. Does it make me want to sing along? Well, Xtreme 2 does, whereas a single Charge 3 doesn't. However, if, again, the choice is to get 2 Charge 3s or one Xtreme 2, it's a nice listening in stereo. However, it's hard to go back to the Charge 3s once you've got used to listening out for that bass. I do like the bass. I do like getting the obvious beat in the track, and you immediately lose that on an A-B. So if you're not in the complete A-B and you're just, you know, one day you're listening to that and then another day that, it may not be so obvious, and you may prefer, you know, a nice stereo separation. And I have to say also the difference, which I did mention in the clip, between a single Charge 3 and 2 Charge 3s, although you can press the connect button. When you press that connect button, it adds some high end to it. It gives an extra sizzle. So when you are listening in stereo, you're always getting a little bit more high end than you would on a single Charge 3 if you didn't press that connect button. You know, I don't think there's an obvious answer when it comes to 2 Charge 3s or an Xtreme 2. It's going to depend on your taste. The Xtreme 2 is always going to be more bass heavy. And personally, when you're going from one to the other, it's very obvious, and it's you really want to go back to the Xtreme 2. However, if you're not doing an A-B and you're just listening for sheer enjoyment and you're kind of relaxing with the music, and it's not, you know, you don't want to get up and dance or something, you may prefer the Charge 3s. However, it's always going to have that recessed high end, where there's a big difference again with the Xtreme 2. So you get the mids and lushness with the Charge 3s that is missing with the Xtreme 2. However, it does have this very forward 2 to 5,000 kilohertz range, which is quite nice. It can be brittle depending on the track. It's very revealing on old tracks. It seems to really like newer, very dynamic, well recorded tracks. When at that point it's a no-brainer. However, on older tracks, you know, that mid-range can fit, that mid-range of the Charge 3s will fill in a lot of what's missing on the track, which you're not getting that. And you know, it's very obvious when you listen to Xtreme 2 on older tracks, on poorer tracks, because it has that dip between the high end and the very, very low end. It's not very kind to those recordings. So a lot of it is, I guess, for most people buying this, they're going to listen to newer recordings, aren't they? More dynamic recordings. And then I think probably I would still go with Xtreme 2. That's without getting into the debate of all the other alternatives that you could have to JBL altogether. So there's so many videos I could do on these, even, you know, pairing them in Connect Plus style with all the other speakers. But so I'll gradually try and put some out. But I just wanted to answer this question on the Charge 3 because it is something that seems to be coming up. And I must say, it's weird that nobody's mentioning the Flip 4 in the same breath, because basically the same power output, but just a different signature sound to the Charge 3s. However, I've got to say, if you actually go to pair them, the Charge 3 is a much better pair with the Xtreme 2, because that mid does fit in nicely with the Xtreme 2. So actually, that's probably going to be another video. When you're looking to pair JBL speakers, the Xtreme 2 and the Charge 3 is actually quite a nice blending. But that's for another day. So yeah, I hope that answered some questions some people are asking about the differences on battery between the two. Not if at least to answer the question is the Xtreme 2 on battery just a Charge 3? And the answer is no. It still goes louder. It's a bigger sound. It's a deeper bass. It's very, very obvious when you're listening that it's a bigger speaker. So just to put that one to bed. On battery, the Xtreme 2 is not a Charge 3. It's bigger and better. But not bigger. It's 3 times the size. So it's all a trade-off. So it's going to be personal opinions and what you're willing to pay. I do think it's overpriced, but I do quite like it. So, yeah, I hope you got something out of that, and thank you for watching.
UK